figure it
numbers.
out.
Numbers, by the way, so yeah, they're the ones throwing these at you.
Okay, long-term solution to overcrowding in the schools. So, luckily, we've taken the first step towards that by reclaiming the BB school. We held on to the BB school, rightly so, as a city for many years when we didn't need it, thinking about the fact that we may someday need it back. I'm seeing BB school alum here in the audience with me. So we held on to that school. The override money provided the coverage for the rental income to allow us to take that back. I think what needs to happen now is a comprehensive look. No one will be occupying that school for the Melrose Public Schools until the earliest of fall of 2020. We have a little bit of time. I think we need a comprehensive plan looking from our pre-K programs at the ECC through 12th grade to look at all of our space needs. The kids that are going into 5th grade this year start the larger cohorts of classes in that huge wave. We need to make sure we have room for them in the middle school, and we need to make sure we have room in the high school. And we need to look at this not just as adding classrooms at the BB, but having a very comprehensive plan that we can implement. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll step on a lot of that as well, build off of that. So obviously the override did take the first step with the reclamation of the BB school. The question is, you know, Melrose actually, unlike other communities in the Commonwealth, we're an outlier. School enrollments are actually going down in some communities. They're going up in Melrose. And it's not just because people are moving here. People are moving here and they're moving here with kids. But kids are coming back to the high school. Kids are coming back to the middle school. They're coming back into the district. And those stats are actually very, very difficult to capture. And we capture them kind of in real time. So we've adapted when we built the modulars to some of the schools to help with the overflows. I do think that the BB school will be helpful, but I think it needs to be dynamic too. And what I mean by that is, do we use that for a school for children? Does it become some place for administrators as this wave that's in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade moves up the chain? Do we need to do more with our high school? Do we need to improve the space there and adapt it in a different way? Because pretty soon, these students are going to be moving through the system. So we really need to think in existing buildings, how we can adapt those buildings, what that space means, and our enrollment will be at those ages. Our kids are going to come back into the district. There's a whole way that we have to look at this, but the benefit is the override did capture some of that space for us in the future.
My kids are almost out. We're getting close. We've had a great experience, as I had a great experience, starting at the Roosevelt School, going all the way up and coming back here or staying here. I never really left. So I think we got to flip the question a little bit, because that is a part of a question about what are the future of the Melrose School is going to be. And I think if you start by saying how we can configure the buildings, you're starting at the wrong place. What we have to do is think about how do we meet the needs of all learners in Melrose. That's the starting point, and everything else should flow from that. So if you have that kind of goal, that kind of mindset about what you want to do, then good planning falls from that. And what we've done over the last several years, because of the financial crunch and figuring out how we're going to manipulate things and kind of shift things around to stay above water, we haven't had the ability to do long-term planning, to do what we do. We do a master plan every 10 or so years, and I think we can do that in education. On my website, I've got a whole bunch of issue stuff, and one of the things I talk about is Melrose Forward, kind of ripping off the master plan piece, and saying, what are our schools going to look like in 2030? We need to take that long view, because configuration should be driven about what is the best way we educate our kids, not just trying to move chess pieces around on the board.
One of the things I learned in working on Melrose Forward in collaboration with the Office of Planning and Community Development was ways in which we had some foresight. We hung on to the BB school. We're dealing with sort of this challenge right now of overcrowding and space issues, but there was a time when our enrollment was lower and communities change. We're actually not at our peak population today. In the 70s, we were at 33,000 residents. So I know our enrollment projections are showing that we're gonna keep going up. I think the questions are, how do we, and I agree, we sort of need to flip that question. The questions are, how do we make sure that kids at all grade levels have a great experience? One of the things I feel as a parent of a first grader, one of the areas of all this focus of attention of increased enrollment is hearing from middle school parents who are sort of seeing the flip side of that, of like all the attention is on the areas where the population is swelling. I also think we need to really think about all of our facilities very comprehensively, because we dealt with this really challenging override, and yet we still have a public safety building, a library building, and our schools to deal with.